Good morning. Welcome to First Mover, your first global look at today's action in the Bitcoin, blockchain, and digital asset space. I'm your host, Christine Lee, and joining me are my co-hosts, CoinDesk Managing Editor of Global Capital Markets, Lawrence Lewitinn, and Managing Director of International Content, Emily Parker. Good morning, you two. How's it going?
Good morning. How are you?
Yes, hump day. Ready to get the the week going. All right, or midweek going.
Almost ending. Almost ending. It's half empty.
Okay. Checking in on Bitcoin right now. The XBX Bitcoin price right now trading at $58,154. Bitcoin is down slightly, about 1.8%, meeting that 60,000 resistance. Meanwhile, Stellar is up 200% year to date. It's one of the top performing cryptocurrencies on the CoinDesk 20. The XLMX Stellar price trading right now at about 39 cents. It's down, though, for the day over the past 24 hours, about 3.6%, according to trade block data, the most reliable reference price for institutions since 2014, with billions in assets under management benchmarked against it. All right. So, Lawrence, tell me a bit about what's going on in the markets today. And we have some Goldman news, too.
Yeah, Goldman is looking to offer its wealthier clients, people who have over $25 million with them, in assets. Over the next 3 months, they're going to offer them some ability to invest in Bitcoin, whether it's directly or through derivatives. Mary Rich appears to be slated to run their digital assets division for private wealth management. And, this is coming as well as Morgan Stanley looks to be offering something sometime in April. And what we know is that Wall Street is definitely getting a lot of interest from people, from especially wealthy individuals who are worried about inflation with the stimulus and money printing from the Fed. So, of course, Wall Street doesn't want to be left out. Their customers are calling, please, we want to invest in digital assets. They don't want them going off to these new upstarts and startups who would be glad to take their money. So Goldman's trying to keep their business. They're trying to keep their wealthy clients.
If the demand is there, it makes sense. All right, Emily, exactly. We also have some news out of PayPal. Apparently, they're doing some good deeds out there, especially in helping a Bitcoin payments processor with a bug, right?
Yes, I think you mean Tesla. As we know, Tesla is PayPal is also doing a lot of good things for Bitcoin, so that's an accurate statement. But Tesla, we know that Tesla is very bullish on Bitcoin. They're allowing Bitcoin for payments. Elon Musk is constantly tweeting about cryptocurrency. But now the Tesla team has kind of taken this commitment to a new level by basically patching a bug in a payment processor known as BTC Pay Server. So it's just kind of interesting that the Tesla team was getting involved in this software and discovering flaws and actually patching a bug. We don't know why specifically they were working on this particular project, but it does indicate that the Tesla team is pretty serious about Bitcoin, not only in an ideological way, but actually in a technical way.
Yeah, so not only can you buy Tesla with Bitcoin, but they seem to be kind of figuring out other ways that, that the people are using Bitcoin. All right, but taking a look at another cryptocurrency, the Stellar network is making strides toward bridging their protocol with all fiat currencies around the world. Bermuda is anticipating the release of digital Bermuda dollars on the Stellar network. In January, Ukraine announced it was exploring the same. Joining us now to discuss is Denelle Dixon, CEO and Executive Director of the Stellar Development Foundation, a nonprofit that supports the growth of the Stellar network. Welcome, Denelle.
Thanks so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Good to have you. All right, Denelle, so tell me more about what is happening in Bermuda and Ukraine. The Bermuda Dollar Project has been underway since 2018. What are the challenges? What are you learning from the pilot?
So the really wonderful thing about both of these projects is that with the Stellar Development Foundation being an open source project, lots of folks can build on the network without even talking to us. And so the Stellar Development Foundation we like to work with people. We're a nonprofit, so we do all of our work for free, and we're happy to contribute and to do what we can. With both of these projects, they have done a lot of work on their own. And what we do is we come in to support on any technological questions that they have, or just, any questions about ecosystem growth and development. And it's just been really nice partnerships that we've seen with respect to these two projects as well as others. So I think what we're going to see is more projects focusing on networks like Stellar because they are fast. They allow very, very low fees for the developers, and we're bridging this gap between the existing financial system and these new rails. And so we're enhancing that system rather than supplanting it. And it's a pretty awesome time period to see governments focused on these issues.
Can you tell us what is going on in Ukraine? They signed a memorandum of understanding to explore digital hryvnia, but from what I understand, it's not set in stone just yet, correct?
Oh, for sure. With respect to us, what we're doing is we're actually helping the Ukraine to explore, not just with Stellar, but with lots of networks in terms of how this could work for them from a digital currency that they would like to offer. So we're working on them, with helping them. They've done tons of their own research, but we're helping them to move this forward and to figure out if this is where they want to head. And we hope that they do. We hope that it's on Stellar, but also even if it was in any other blockchain, we would be supportive because we think that, the rising tide sort of floats all boats and gets us all out there and gets blockchain and more into the mainstream.
So I know that you're doing also some interesting projects in Nigeria, and you did just mention governments and their involvement in cryptocurrency, which, as we know, cuts both ways. There has been talks about, well, more than talk. Nigeria has been suggesting that they, might be cracking down on cryptocurrency. What do you think is the outlook there, and in terms of crypto? Do you think Nigeria will crack down on cryptocurrency, or do you think it will continue to allow it to thrive?
I think ultimately what we're going to see is this really nice partnership between the governments and these private sector with respect to cryptocurrencies and digital assets. The central bank issued a rulemaking, and it really freaked everybody out, I'll be honest. There was a really strong open corridor between Nigeria and Europe on Stellar, and it slowed that corridor because of concerns. But then we saw the Senate jump in and other regulatory bodies jump in Nigeria to really say, no, we want to talk about this. We want to think about it. We want to really engage with the private sector. And from our standpoint, you're absolutely right that it cuts both ways with governments. The way that we can actually make this work is when there's a nice partnership and governments really explore what the private sector is doing so that all of those fears that governments have about new technology can be understood a little bit better. And that's what we're seeing in Nigeria. So I think it's going to be a really positive development ultimately that we'll see a really strong open corridor there.
What are some other emerging markets that you are really excited about just on the cryptocurrency front? Are there any markets that aren't really on most people's radar where there's a lot of action happening in cryptocurrency?
Well, I think if you think about the value of blockchain and the notion of it really bringing new tools and new technologies to the unbanked and the underbanked, think about these developing markets. So we see a lot of activity in Mexico, in Argentina, in Brazil, and even in Brazil where it's challenging with respect to how you actually use fiat money in terms of in and out. And so we're seeing some activity there, and I think that we're going to see some movement there as well. And then, of course, there's so many regions in Africa that are just thriving with respect to these digital assets. So it's really exciting. This is like an amazing time to be involved in this space. I'm really grateful that I am.
Hi, Denelle. Turning to Southeast Asia, Ripple just acquired a stake in Tranglo. How do you guys view Ripple in general? Are they your closest competitor? Obviously, you had the same founders, Jed McCaleb. So how do you guys view what they're doing relative to what you're doing?
So the different networks offer different value. I think that, we're really focused on at Stellar, and the Stellar network itself is really, it's focused on payments and it's focused on cross-border payments. And that is sort of the sweet spot with respect to Stellar. And Ripple has been focusing a lot on foreign exchange and some and moving a bit more now into cross-border. I think about this as, and maybe this is just my days at Mozilla, years and years of recognizing that competition and competition breeds innovation. And so I look at all of these networks out there that are each creating their own sort of individuality as really important to be able to allow businesses and individuals to make choices and to continue to push that innovation forward. That is such an important part of what we need to see in any kind of new economies and any kind of new technologies. And I think that's what we're seeing here.
Do you view XRP then as a security, and is XLM a security? Why isn't XLM a security, and is XRP a security?
Yeah, so the way that I look at this is what we do at Stellar and the Stellar Development Foundation is we are focused on using these technologies, and that includes the token. The token is it's a utility on the about XLM. And so we focus on leveraging that as a bridge currency on the network. In terms of you can use all kinds of stable coins. Issuers can issue assets that are backed by fiat, that are backed by gold, that are backed by silver. We encourage that. So from our standpoint, XLM is a bridge currency on the network, and it is a utility. So that's the way we look at it, and we hope that others do too.
A little more than a year ago, half the supply of XLM was burned. That was about $5 billion worth at the time. Prices have gone up 10x since then. Looking back, was it worth it?
Oh, so we didn't look at it from that standpoint. In fact, I had just gotten here about 6 months earlier at the Stellar Development Foundation. We focused on what the foundation needed to do to really encourage the growth and development of the network. And we looked at the XLM and said, what is necessary for utility and for usage of the network? And so we really focused on what SDF needed to do to be able to support and grow that network. It was never looked at from the standpoint of the value and whether this is worth it in terms of the market. That's just not how we approached it. We approached it in what we needed to do to grow the network, to create those network effects, and to think about this innovation and all these technologies that are building on top of it. And I think regrets? That what we did, no regrets.
Right.
All right. Denelle, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate your insights.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thanks.
All right. That was Stellar Development Foundation CEO and Executive Director Denelle Dixon. Coming up, crypto infrastructure provider and custodian Fireblocks. Welcome back. Checking in on Bitcoin, the XBX Bitcoin price trading at $58,119. Bitcoin is down about 1.4%. And the ETX Ether price trading at $18.14. ETH is down about 1.2% over the past 24 hours, according to TradeBlock data. And earlier this month, crypto custody provider Fireblocks raised $133 million in an effort to remain independent at a time when its competitors are being acquired. Among their clients is BNY Mellon, the world's largest custodial bank, which participated in the Series C funding round. Joining us now to discuss from New York is Fireblocks CEO Michael Shaulov. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you for having me.
Great to have you. All right. So Fireblocks provides not only storage, but the transfer of digital assets for lenders. This is a key entry point for big banks like BNY Mellon. So tell us about your relationship with BNY. They're using Fireblocks on the back end to handle technical details of holding digital assets, correct?
Yes. So, our journey with Bonnie actually started about, I would say, even 3 years ago, when we basically got, engaged in what ended up being a long way to the point where I think the market is right now. And Bonnie is sort of committed, as they also announced, they sort of committed to the space. They view the space as a strategic opportunity for them, an area where they're going to invest a lot of resources over the next couple of years. And they also committed to use basically the best technologies out there. Part of it is really, the core of their business, where they need to custody and store those assets, and also to provide the ability for their users, which are big institutions usually, to basically move those assets across a secure network. Two of those functions are clearly areas where Fireblocks has a very unique proposition, and they're basically working with us on those efforts.
Michael, we hear Goldman is close to offering Bitcoin to their wealthier clients. Were you guys involved in any way?
Not directly, no.
Indirectly?
I think that I'm not able to really comment on the specific engagement that sort of exists in that market with different players. But I think that overall, as you can imagine, some of the parts of this ecosystem is interconnected, and because of the magnitude of the client base that we have, usually we are involved in some sort of paths within those offerings.
There's been so much hype about, institutions getting into blockchain and cryptocurrency. Just from your perspective, what are some of the pain points for institutions who want to get into the crypto space? I imagine it's not always a completely smooth process, right? Where are some of the biggest challenges or just pain points?
Yeah, I think that yesterday I talked with the CEO of one of the biggest, former CEO actually, of one of the biggest banks, and his comment on that was that the biggest issue is that they know that they don't know which questions they should ask, right? So I think that the first and most important step right now is actually a lot of education that has to go into the senior leadership of those institutions. As you all can probably imagine, a lot of those institutions sort of deliberately restricted the access for both their middle management and senior management to basically being exposed to the technology and to the asset class. And now they're basically caught up into this in terms of they understand that the train is sort of leaving the station and they need to catch up, right? They want to be on that train. They understand it's important. They see the client demand coming up. And one of the key things over there is really, first and foremost, education and making sure that they're up to speed, right? If someone someone never transferred a Bitcoin from, Coinbase to his personal wallet, then there is a key sort of education that needs to be applied. Once that happens, I think that the second step is really for them to get sort of a multidisciplinary alignment, right? So they need a lot of people in the company to understand and to sort of, lean into this. It starts from clearly technology, right? Because the technologies need to implement, to operations. The operations with this asset class are fundamentally different. And then, of course, compliance and legal, where they actually need to change a lot of the procedures and risks and liabilities that they have to basically provide services or to participate in this market.
Do you see institutional demand for custody services in other cryptocurrencies, Michael?
I think it's coming, yes. So, even from the big institutions that we currently serve, and including Bonnie, by the way, it's only Bitcoin, right? There is clearly sort of a line which they are not comfortable in terms of crossing because of the regulatory uncertainty, right? Compliance and regulatory certainty are key aspects for them. Clearly things that are very vague in terms of the regulatory position. I don't think that anyone will go and invest in those assets at the moment, but definitely it's much more than Bitcoin.
Your competitor Curve got acquired by PayPal, but why was it important for Fireblocks to raise this third round of funding now with a total of $179 million and remain independent?
I think there are a couple of aspects. The first one is that we clearly, first of all, the acquisition of Curve is phenomenal, and they're an amazing team, and I think they will serve PayPal really well. For us, that's a big indication that the technology that we've developed, and I think the lady before me sort of mentioned that competition is sort of triggering innovation. I definitely agree. We basically both pushed on the MPC space, the multi-party computation, as a custodial key management technology. And the fact that PayPal basically acquired them is a really strong indication on the fact that this is the future. Inevitably, the way that we envision Fireblocks is this horizontal infrastructure for most of the market, or at least big parts of the market. It's important for our clients to understand that Fireblocks can serve them on the long run, right? Replatforming wallet infrastructure, replatforming custody infrastructure is not an easy process. And as you go and you play more and more with the big boys, right, they do expect that, if they sign up a contract with you today, you'll still be there in 3 years, you'll still be there in 5 years. And, we wanted to make sure that we have enough cash to guarantee to them this independence. We wanted to make sure that we can guarantee to them that we can stay in operation even if tomorrow morning we have another crypto winter. And also we want to make sure that they understand that if there isn't any M&A motion, Fireblocks is not going to be the first target because just like, from a valuation standpoint.
Michael, do you see expanding beyond digital assets to covering conventional assets in the infrastructure to stay competitive with some of the bigger outfits out there?
For Fireblocks?
Yeah.
No, I think we focus primarily on blockchain. We do have some integrations into fiat rails. So we are integrated with Signature Bank and Silvergate Bank, and we have some sort of indirect capabilities in the fiat space, but we are a technology provider, right? So our bread and butter is sort of R&D that is really focused on blockchain and digital assets. And I think that what we are seeing more and more is that those, or at least the way that we view the future, is that all those assets, or most of those assets, that they will either become digital, right? So securities, I think at some point they will become not only they won't only become asset-backed tokens, but it will actually be just a security that is represented only on the blockchain. And some of those assets, we've seen now with NFTs that even art or other type of non-bankable assets getting a digital representation. So I think for us there is sort of more than enough at the moment to really focus on what people need from blockchain technology standpoint and digital asset standpoint. Yeah. So that's our focus at the moment.
Well, congratulations, Michael, on this latest funding round. You're clearly making big moves with institutions, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you do next.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
All right. That was Fireblocks CEO Michael Shaulov. Coming up, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank is rolling out its digital currency, and checking in with CoinDesk Global Policy and Regulation Managing Editor Nick Day. Welcome back. Time to check in with CoinDesk Global Policy and Regulation Managing Editor Nick Day, who is also the editor of CoinDesk's The State of Crypto newsletter. Good morning, Nick.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. All right. So Coinbase made a strategic new hire. We're hearing that they snagged a former SEC official ahead of its IPO. What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so former SEC Director of Trading and Markets, Brett Redfern, is now the new Vice President of the Capital Markets Division at Coinbase. It said he'll be overseeing the brokerage, custody, and some of the exchange business and operations.
Nick, what's your take on this Goldman news?
Yeah, so I don't know there's a lot right now, but apparently Goldman is preparing to offer some crypto services to, I think, only, how should we say, high-value clients or private wealth managers, I believe. It honestly just sounds like another, this is not a move they would make if they weren't comfortable with the idea of doing this, and they weren't comfortable with the idea of regulators letting them do this. So, I don't think they need a formal regulatory approval to do this, but they clearly think, okay, well, crypto's now at a point where we can offer this to some of our clients, and we're not going to get dinged for, consumer protection rules or whatever. So it's definitely an interesting signal at the least.
So, Nick, getting back to the Coinbase story here, how do critics look at this? How thrilled or not thrilled are they with another regulator going over there?
So there's been jokes about the revolving door between business and government for a while, and I think that critics' perspective on this is now, the revolving door to crypto. to see now not just Redfern, but previously former SEC Chair Jay Clayton is now part of the advisory board at One River Management, where he's going to be advising on crypto. So, there's probably something to be said about. And of course, former CFTC chairman, has long been part of Digital Dollar Foundation and other works. So that's probably the critics' perspective. But on the other hand, I think it makes sense that a lot of these companies would want someone who's got some familiarity with the regulatory regime to advise them. Brett Redfern obviously had a pretty influential position, and he's been doing this for, I think they said 25 years. So he's definitely got the knowledge base. Clayton as well, of course. And especially now with Coinbase preparing to go public, they're going to be subject to a lot more SEC scrutiny. So I imagine they want to make sure they're not going to get dinged 4 years down the line for some violation.
Yeah, it's a smart move on Coinbase's part. Nick, thanks for the update.
Thank you.
That was CoinDesk Managing Editor of Global Policy and Regulation, Nick Day. Don't forget to sign up for the State of Crypto newsletter on CoinDesk.com. Well, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank is launching a phased rollout of its central bank digital currency today. This will allow people in several Eastern Caribbean islands to spend and earn in Dcash, a digital version of the Eastern Caribbean dollar. Joining us now to discuss is Brian Popelka, CEO of Bitt, the fintech firm that designed the underlying software. Welcome, Brian.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Good morning. So this program was in its test phase since 2019, but now it's being rolled out initially in Antigua and Barbuda, Grenada, St. Kitts and Nevis, and St. Lucia. What did you learn from the test phase, and what do you hope to see in this rollout?
Well, I think you can imagine that our test phase just happened to coincide with a global pandemic. So a lot of the challenges that we might not have regularly faced if we were able to sort of move in and about the Caribbean added a certain layer of instability to the areas. But really the learnings there was, and I think it's a story that you hear often, right? It has to start with education and trust in that the currency is going to be something that is real, can be transacted, is simple and safe.
Hi, good morning. I guess a question about what specific problems the CBDC is attempting to solve. Like, what are the issues that it will resolve, and is there really demand for this kind of thing among these local populations?
Yeah, I think it's really simple. Two key mandates that came straight from Governor Antoine of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. First of which is, of course, financial inclusion, and the second of which is really reduction in cost related to cash and coin. As you can imagine, in these developing countries where cash, physical coin are still 90% of transactions, the ability to transition folks into a digital economy where they're able to move money, do payments digitally rather than with physical notes is a key reduction in cost for the government, key reduction in cost for the bank. But then the higher mandate, of course, trying to bring those that are disenfranchised by high banking fees and things in these developing regions, allows them a chance to really join the economy.
Ryan, how does it work on the back end? Are you holding U.S. dollars or Eastern Caribbean dollars? And how will that ultimately, from the central bank's point of view, help it keep the peg?
Yeah, so the central bank is managing the reserve against itself. So we've allowed the ECCB to monetary policy. We've just been able to facilitate the minting and issuance process through our application, and we leave the monetary policy to the central bank.
Brian, I wonder, is this considered blockchain technology, or does the centralized nature of it make it something else?
Well, it's a good question. It's a bit of a hybrid. We're still trying to do a decentralized infrastructure, a blockchain infrastructure, even though it's still managed by the central bank. I think it's good practice. We expect that ultimately there'll be a decentralized structure that we will look at globally. But this feels like a transition step for central banks so that they can have comfort, the technology structure, the governance, things that will resonate with them and give them comfort as they move forward.
One of the big concerns about CBDCs worldwide is privacy, and that this will allow governments, an opportunity to really track the transactions of citizen finances. Is that a concern for you? For Bitt, it's certainly a concern. Again, we've tried to, at least in these early stages, most of the monetary policy has been just mimicking really what they're able to track and deal with in physical fiat. So we haven't really had to cross that line of additional tracking or privacy questions, but that's certainly top of mind for us as we try to roll out our solution globally.
Brian, how does this get rolled out? Who will use it at first, and how will they get a hold of it? Yeah, so it's what we like about it as a pilot is it's barely a pilot. It's really almost a live deployment, right? With half of the Eastern Caribbean participating, the Eastern Caribbean will mint and issue to participating financial institutions across the region. And so consumers and merchants are able to either go to a participating financial institution to onboard their cash from physical to digital. But because one of the key mandates is financial inclusion, we also have private agencies and merchant tellers. So if you don't have a bank account, you as a consumer could go to one of these agencies or to one of the participating merchant tellers and onboard your cash digitally.
It would be a mobile app, right?
That's right, a mobile app on your phone.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that's run by the bank.
The penetration of cell phones in the economy is 100 and some percent.
Okay, very exciting stuff. Lawrence, did you have another question?
Oh, yeah, no. So would this app be done by their bank or through Bitt?
Well, it'll be through the App Store and mostly sponsored by the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. So the central bank is really pushing out the effort operationally on the ground.
All right, great. Very exciting stuff. Would be interesting to use it. I sometimes go down there to St. Lucia's time. When travel comes back, hopefully I'll get to again. Thank you so much, Brian, for joining us this morning and explaining a bit about what's going on in the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. That was Bitt CEO Brian Popelka. Time now to check in with crypto Twitter with our tweet of the day. This one coming in from Bitcoin consultant Dambala Hodl. Huge inside scoop from Morgan Stanley, currently doing weekly calls to educate all wealth advisors on Bitcoin, rolling out the ability to hold actual Bitcoins as a cash balance within their wealth management platform. Estimated launch 2 to 3 weeks. Something to consider paired with that Goldman news this morning. All right. That's it for First Mover. Coming up tomorrow is special guest Michael Venuto, Torozo Investment CIO. Thank you, Emily Parker, our CoinDesk Managing Director of International Content, and Lawrence Lewitinn, Managing Editor of Global Capital Markets. I'm your host, Christine Lee. Coming up at noon is The Hash. I'll be back at 3 p.m. with All About Bitcoin Live. You're watching CoinDesk TV.